The story opens in old Japan, in a region called Eiko, where the authority of local lords still holds strong. A group of samurai arrive with a boy who looks unusual. His name is Kai, but no one knows where he came from. People whisper that he might be connected to something mysterious, and they don't want him to stay in their land. His pale skin makes everyone uneasy. Even then, the ruler of Eiko, Lord Asano, decides the boy will remain under his protection. Asano's daughter, Mika, takes a liking to him, and the two quickly become close friends. Kai grows up in Eiko, always different from the others. Many treat him as if he doesn't belong, yet he never forgets the kindness shown by the Asano family and the warmth of Mika's friendship. One day, a group of hunters set out to track a dangerous creature that had frightened the entire village. It was huge, with 6 eyes, and strong enough to toss even horses into the air. During the chase, a samurai named Yasano dropped his sword and found himself cornered by the beast. Kai stepped in, risking his own life, and brought the creature down. He saved Yasano and handed his sword back to him. Instead of gratitude, Yasano reacted with disgust and said it would have been better to fall in battle than be rescued by someone he saw as unworthy. The people around them already believed Kai was different, and Yasano's reaction only strengthened that belief. Soon, the other samurai arrived and assumed Yasano had defeated the creature. Yasano kept quiet and claimed the praise for himself. As they prepared to leave, Kai noticed a strange white fox watching him. Its 2 eyes were different colors, and it stared at him without blinking. At the same time, in another region called Nagato, the same white fox appeared before their ruler, Lord Kira. In an instant, the fox shifted into a woman of striking beauty. She was actually Kira's informant. She told him that their attempt to bring down Lord Asano had not worked. Back in Eiko, when the hunting party returned, Mika greeted her father and asked if he was hurt. Asano teased her, asking if she was worried about someone in particular. Soon after, the reason behind slaying the 6-eyed creature became clear. A major event, the Shogun's tournament, was set to take place in Eiko, and everything needed to be flawless. Asano praised Mika for her efforts, smiling as he said that if her mother were alive, she would have been proud of her. That night Mika went to Kai. Kai was badly injured, so Mika took care of him. After that, Mika brought up the topic of Yasano. She said that when everyone was praising him, there was shame in his eyes. Kai understood that Mika knows what must have happened. He immediately said, "I don't want any trouble. You go from here." Along with that, Kai also said, "I will always love you. But my place is different, yours is different." The day of the Shogun finally arrived, celebrated with full grandeur. Among the guests, a woman appeared who looked oddly familiar. Her eyes were 2 different colors, just like the fox Kai had seen in the forest. This bothered him, so he went to inform Oishi. Neither of them noticed that Oishi's son, Shirkara, was quietly listening nearby. Kai told Oishi that a strange woman had blended into the crowd. Oishi questioned him, saying that only certain beings can recognize someone hiding their true identity. He asked Kai how he knew something like that. The next day the festival continued, and Lord Kira arrived once more. He spoke politely to Lord Asano, even though both men carried a deep dislike for each other. Kira looked at the woman beside Asano and said, "Wow, you have a very nice concubine." Asano's temper rose instantly. "She is my daughter, understood? Speak with respect," he snapped. After the play, the contest between the 2 states was about to begin. Lord Kira's warrior performed incredibly well, and everyone was impressed. Kira then looked at Mika and said in a mocking tone, "Don't worry. I'm sure your father's chosen warrior will be just as powerful." But people weren't confident. They believed Asano had selected Yasano, the one everyone assumed had defeated the 6-eyed beast. The crowd expected Yasano to appear. But just before the fight, that fox visited him, and when he finally showed up, he looked noticeably different. When Shirkara came to fetch him, Yasano looked completely unfit to fight. Kai suggested calling someone else, but there was no time. If their fighter didn't step up soon, it would bring great shame, and even Asano's honor would be at stake. Only one samurai could enter the contest, and neither of them technically qualified. But samurai wore masks, and behind one mask, no one could tell whether the fighter was Yasano or not. The crowd grew restless waiting. The shogun sent a servant to Asano, asking, "Where is your warrior?" Just then, the warrior from Eiko State arrived. His entrance was modest compared to his opponents, but the crowd breathed a sigh of relief, At least he had come. That relief was short-lived. Kira's warrior immediately began overwhelming the newcomer, pushing him to his limits. With a single arrow, his mask fell to the ground in full view of everyone, leaving the crowd utterly stunned. The shogun immediately halted the fight and descended to the arena. At a glance, he realized that Kai was not a samurai. The shogun ordered the other warrior to continue, but Mika, in a state of panic, stepped in front of Kai. Lord Asano quickly apologized, taking full responsibility. He said that if anyone were to face punishment, it should be him. The shogun nodded and left the matter of punishment in the hands of the people. That same evening, in front of Lord Kira, the sorceress outlined her plan to take control of the entire Eiko region from Lord Asano. She said the timing was perfect. Asano was already weighed down by many responsibilities. Using her magic, she created a spider. And not just any spider, it had 6 eyes, revealing where the previous creature had come from. The spider crawled near Asano and stung him with a poisonous bite, making him fall ill. Asano awoke in a daze, believing Kira was threatening Mika. He raised his sword to protect his daughter, though the attack existed only in his mind. To the onlookers, however, it looked like he had struck at Kira. Samurai rushed forward to intervene, while Kira played the part of the victim. For this act, Asano was sentenced to death for attacking a guest. Yet, out of respect for his honor and status, he was granted the chance to carry out the sentence himself. Later, Asano told Oishi that this was better than being hanged. Oishi protested, saying it was unfair. What fault did he truly have? He had been under a spell. But Asano's thoughts were only on protecting his family's honor. He went to say goodbye to Mika. "Don't cry," he told her. "Don't show them that you are weakening." Then he went with Oishi to a quiet place. Oishi carefully cleaned his sword. Kai was still recovering from his wounds, but everyone else was there, witnessing Asano's final moments. The samurai were eager for revenge, but Oishi cautioned that if a fight broke out now, the people of the entire region, not just warriors, but farmers and villagers, would be at risk. "The first duty of warriors is to think of others," he said. Mika told the shogun that, as Asano's only daughter, she would manage the region until she married. Yet she did not know that everything had already been decided. From now on, Lord Kira would rule the Eiko region. Mika was given 1 year to mourn. After that, she was to marry Kira. For Oishi and Asano's remaining soldiers, the shogun announced that they were no longer samurai. They were now Ronin, samurai who had lost their master. He made it clear that they were not to seek revenge. As soon as Kira came to power, his first act was to drive the Ronin from their land. He declared that any Ronin found there would be punished severely. Mika was heartbroken hearing this, wondering if everything was truly over. Kai was brought in, tied with a rope. Kira told his future wife to look at him one last time, for she would never see him again. Then he called one of his men to decide what to do with Oishi. Not trusting him at all, Kira had Oishi imprisoned. Oishi remained in jail for a full year. On a heavy rainy day, he was dragged out, his frail body left exposed to the elements. His wife and son came running to him, bringing warm food. His wife explained that all of his people had left the Eiko region. Mika had been taken to the palace to prepare for her wedding, as the 1-year mourning period was nearly over. Oishi asked about Kai. Shirkara told him that Kai had been sent far away to serve as a laborer. As Oishi ate, the full weight of the situation sank in. He stood up and told the boy, "We need 3 horses immediately." His wife tried to stop him, but Oishi insisted, "Tell everyone that we are divorced. There are tasks that are far more important, and this is the only way I can protect you." After saying goodbye to his wife, Oishi explained a few things to Shirkara and rode off on horseback. After a long search, Oishi finally found Kai, who was in a terrible condition. He was being forced to fight cruelly for the amusement of spectators. Oishi entered the ring himself, knowing it was the only way to reach Kai. But over the past year, Kai had been reduced to a mere fighting machine. He had been pushed so far that he no longer recognized Oishi. Oishi kept calling out, "It's me. Pay attention." But Kai continued attacking, his body moving on instinct alone. He had become hollow inside, with no strength to think or understand. It was only when he heard Mika's name that Kai snapped back to awareness. Together, they found a way to escape the fighting arena, narrowly avoiding bullets. Once they were at a safe distance, they finally spoke. Their relationship had changed completely. Kai was no longer the quiet, reserved disciple he had once been. Now Kai had become sharp-tongued and filled with anger. Oishi admitted to himself, "I should have trusted your warnings. Lord Kira has deceived us and caused the death of our master." Oishi needed Kai's help, and the year he had spent in prison had also changed his outlook. That's why he now treated Kai with deep respect. Meanwhile, a messenger arrived outside Kira's palace with news from Dutch Island. He reported that the warrior Kira had sold away had escaped with the help of a samurai. In response, Kira instructed the sorceress to find Oishi immediately. He wanted Oishi completely eliminated. On the other side, Kai and Oishi reached the pond, where Shirkara was waiting for them. Shirkara had gathered all of Oishi's people together. He announced that he had a plan, but it went against the shogun's orders, meaning that anyone who joined faced great danger. When he revealed that the plan's goal was to defeat Lord Kira, everyone shouted with enthusiasm. They were ready to follow his strategy. The fort was heavily guarded, with strong security, so they needed to find out when Kira would visit the temple. They also needed more people and swords. Oishi assigned these tasks to some of his men. One of the men became angry at Kai and tried to attack him, saying he was not a samurai. Oishi stopped him and said, "None of us are samurai anymore." With that, each team set off to carry out their assigned tasks. Oishi and Kai soon reached a place called Yutsu, a village known for making swords. The area looked abandoned, with not a single person in sight. When a group of soldiers appeared, Oishi quickly said they were farmers who had come to buy tools. The soldiers replied that the village now belonged to Lord Kira. They looked at Shikara's hands and said they didn't seem like a farmer's hands. Kai sensed what was about to happen and stepped in before things got worse. He acted so swiftly that the remaining soldiers were left terrified. Afterward, the group picked up the swords left behind. It was now clear that Kira had taken control of the entire region, and they would not be able to get weapons from there. At that moment, Kai revealed his secret to Oishi. He said they could find weapons in the Tengu forest, the place where he grew up among strange, otherworldly beings. He had also made a promise never to use the powers they had given him. Oishi didn't like hearing about spirits and the supernatural, but he had no choice. He had to settle the score at any cost. Around that time, one of their men returned with news about Lord Kira's next visit. But on the way, he met a beautiful girl and became distracted. Her eyes were unusual. He asked her name. Meanwhile, Oishi's group carefully entered the forest. They asked Kai which direction was north, and he warned them that the northern side was filled with strange presences. Oishi and Kai then went into a dark cave while the others waited outside. Kai said if too many people entered together, the forest would grow hostile. Before stepping in, Kai told Oishi, "No matter what happens, don't draw your sword. Remember that." Outside the cave, the Ronin began whispering among themselves. They didn't understand why Oishi trusted Kai so deeply. After some discussion, they convinced themselves they couldn't rely on Kai. They worried he might get Oishi harmed inside the cave. Kai moved alone into an inner chamber. Soon, a strange-looking figure appeared and spoke with him. They talked about the outside world and how people like Kai were often treated unfairly. He had been called dirty blood and rejected again and again, even though he had done nothing wrong. But in the realm of spirits, none of that happened. Here he had been accepted. In the outer room, Oishi was stunned as he saw the anger and distrust among his own people. Everyone looked shaken. Suddenly, Yasano pulled out his sword for no clear reason and began a wild fight. A whisper echoed in Oishi's mind, urging him to draw his sword and protect his men. He tried to help without using his weapon, growing more desperate as his people fell one after another. Meanwhile, Kai asked the spirit for the sword that stood between them. The spirit agreed, but with one condition. Kai had to grab it before he did. Both leapt into the air toward the sword, but Kai reached it first. The spirit smiled, pleased to see that Kai still had his old speed. In the other chamber, nothing was actually happening. Oishi's people had never stepped inside the cave at all. Everything he saw was only an illusion. It was a test meant to judge his resolve and his trust. When Kai returned, he carried several swords with him. Soon after, all the Ronin gathered outside Eiko again. Isegai was waiting there and told them that Lord Kira would be leaving the palace that night. Oishi accepted the message, not noticing that Isegai's eyes looked strange and unfocused. Shirkara wanted to join the mission as well, but his father refused. So he stayed behind with an older man instead. It was nighttime, and the Ronin slipped quietly into the encampment. A figure with very long hair was kneeling in prayer, waiting for Oishi to get close. The moment he approached, the figure turned around. It was the sorceress. With a single motion of her hand, flames burst out everywhere. Many men lost their lives, and several Ronin were badly hurt. Inside the fort, the sorceress handed Lord Kira a sword and said it once belonged to Oishi. Then she mocked Mika and claimed that she alone had wiped out the last of her father's forces. While talking, the sorceress placed one of her daggers near Mika. That small act sparked an idea in Mika's mind. Back at the Ronin camp, it became clear that the sorceress was mistaken. Many men were hurt, but most were still alive. Oishi admitted his error and said they should not have waited so long. Now they had to strike back at once. Win or lose, they would face it with honor. Kai stepped forward and said they could still complete what they began. Since Kira believed they were all gone, their next attack would give them a huge advantage. They had one more chance to strike at dawn. As they were leaving, Kai noticed a group of traveling actors. Their troupe had performed in the region before. When the Ronin stopped them, the actors explained that they were on their way to perform at Lord Kira's wedding. Hearing this, the Ronin began forming a new plan. They all understood the risk. There was a real chance none of them would return, and they knew how dangerous the mission was. They wrote down their story so the next generation would know what they did and why. Everyone signed it, including Kai. He was no longer an outsider to them. Yasano then spoke openly and said it was Kai who defeated the six-eyed creature, not him. He apologized for not saying it earlier. He also reminded everyone that a samurai always carries two swords, and he handed his second sword to Kai. Late at night, a grand event was about to begin. Kira's fort was packed with soldiers. The drama troupe was allowed to enter through the main gate, and no one noticed Kai and Oishi slipping in while blending with the performers. Inside, Mika was dressed in a wedding outfit and brought before Kira. The moment they sat down, the stage play began. While everyone focused on the performance, the Ronin used the distraction to climb up a quiet corner of the fort. They moved with care, silently removing the guards one by one. Each time a guard fell, a Ronin stepped into his place to avoid drawing attention. The crowd cheered at the fire show happening on stage. But the sorceress sensed something was off. Oishi, disguised among the performers, began displaying a few tricks to keep eyes on him. On the other side of the fort, as the Ronin dealt with three guards standing together, something slipped. One of the guards managed to fire an arrow toward Oishi. It grazed his hand, breaking his cover. Because of this, the strike meant for Kira failed. Lord Kira's men quickly escorted him and Mika, shielding them from incoming arrows. The Ronin were still following closely. Everywhere in the fort, fights had erupted. Kai fought alone, taking on many enemies with skill and determination. Seeing this, Lord Kira sent his most fearsome warrior to confront the Ronin. Everyone trembled at the sight, knowing how powerful he was. But then, one Ronin tossed burning gunpowder into the weapons room. A massive explosion followed, and Kira's warrior was defeated in the blast. The sorceress immediately changed her form and flew away. Mika seized the moment, drawing a dagger hidden in her wedding dress and lunging at Kira. But when she realized she couldn't harm him, she retreated. The entire fort had turned into a chaotic battlefield, with the Ronin giving everything they had. After some time, Kai and Mika finally reunited. As Kai declared that no one could separate them now, the sorceress returned, transforming into a giant dragon with her magic. But Kai stood firm and said, "I am not afraid of you." The sorceress attacked Kai with fire, but with the help of his special sword, Kai blocked every strike and kept countering her continuously. Meanwhile, between Oishi and Kira, only a thin wall separated them. Both attacked fiercely and broke it, sparking an intense duel. They were evenly matched, each pushing the other to the limit. During the fight, Kai's sword slipped from his hands. But as the dragon form of the sorceress advanced toward Mika, Kai tapped into his hidden power, lifting the sword and delivering a tremendous strike. The dragon fell and slowly transformed back into the sorceress. The force of the attack was so strong that she could no longer continue. Inside the fort, Oishi defeated Kira, finally confronting him in front of everyone and ending the battle once and for all. With Kira's defeat, his soldiers laid down their weapons. The 47 Ronin returned to Eiko with Princess Mika. They visited Lord Asano's grave, placed their swords there, and Oishi declared that justice had been served. Oishi meets the shogun and takes responsibility for everything. He asks only that his men be treated with respect for what they've done. The shogun replies that even though their actions deserve the highest punishment, he still respects the loyalty they showed toward Lord Asano. He grants them an honorable end. A tear falls from Oishi's eyes, and Mika silently breaks as well. Kai and Mika share a final moment before his fate is sealed. They promise to find each other in another life. They share one last kiss. The ceremony for the Ronin begins. The shogun calls Chikara forward and spares him so he can continue Oishi's family line. Kai and Mika exchange one last look before he carries out his final act. Later, Mika stands on a bridge reading a message Kai left behind, reminding her of his promise to look for her in whatever world comes next. The narrator explains that the tale of the 47 loyal warriors lived on for generations. A note at the end says that every year on December 14th, thousands gather at their resting place to honor what they stood for. The film is inspired by their legacy. If you like the video, give it a like and subscribe for more great stories. I'll see you in the next one.